This podcast is brought to you by sarahraven.com, which is home to everything you need for a truly beautiful and productive garden. You'll also find great and essential gardening kit and stylish, lovely things to have in your house to bring the outside indoors, all inspired by the garden and the house being tied together. There's also plenty of garden inspiration, how-to videos and specialist growing guides, so head over to sarahraven.com today to discover even more. Welcome to Grow, Cook, Eat, Arrange, the podcast of me, Sarah Raven, and various different guests through various different seasons. And today I'm joined by one of our regular contributors, Tom Stimpson, who works with me at Sarah Raven and is our Head of Horticulture. And Tom and I have done lots of thinking about bulbs this spring and last autumn for this moment in the year, which is we're just coming into bulb planting moment. And so we thought we'd do a bit of a theme on that, really. So 2 or 3 episodes on that. The first one on sort of forcing bulbs for the house, because that's the most urgent. The next on a narcissus trip that Tom and I did in March. The following one after that, we're going to talk about small space gardening, because Tom, very proud, we can say that he was on Gardener's World this March, and that was fun. So he's going to talk about that. And then the final one we're going to chat about with Tom is about his perennial pots that have been so fantastic in his garden, in his small space garden this summer. So a bit of a theme with Tom, and I hope you'll really enjoy them. I know I'll enjoy chatting to Tom. Hello, Tom, wittering on as usual, and I haven't even welcomed you. Good morning.
Hello.
So today we're going to talk about forcing bulbs for the house. So Tom and I live in quite different situations. I don't have a big house, but we have lots of different buildings. Tom lives in the most perfect sort of micro, absolutely adorable Fabergé egg of a house, which has perfect detailing, a sort of 2 up, 3 down type setup, just utterly lovely in Ely. And so forcing bulbs for inside is really important because his garden is also quite tiny. So he wants a garden inside as well as outside. So maybe, Tom, you'll kick us off with ones that you would never not have for your house inside.
I think for me, having, bulbs in the wintertime that have been forced is so important. It brings colour and a bit of structure to inside, and being able to move them about means they're incredibly versatile from room to room. As things become really great and good, then they take centre stage. And as they begin to fade, then something else takes over. So one thing I wouldn't be without are amaryllis, the big and the bold. Yeah. And I really love them. I don't have space for masses of them, but there's a couple that I like. And one of them is called Mystica, which I picked up from when I saw it at yours because it was just looking so wonderful and so beautiful. And this time it was in the greenhouse. And I remember us creating a lovely display with it, with various other things. Yeah. But it stuck with me, and I really absolutely love it. I love the petals. They're so narrow and curly and twisted. And I love having this on my table where I'm sitting now, actually, speaking to you. Or I love them on my little ottoman in the sitting room where I've got lots of books that are all different sizes. And I love placing a pot right in the centre there for massive display. So that's one I would definitely love to have.
Yeah. And I love it too. And we had it exactly as you said. I mean, we're lucky here because we have got a greenhouse, so we've got a bit more space. And we had it with an amazing one, which I just adore, which is a green base with crimson sort of stripes called papilio, which means butterfly, I think. And it really does look like, an exotic butterfly that you might see in the jungle in Brazil. I mean, it's just absolutely incredible. And we had that with Mystica. And one is, papilio is a bit more chunky, but not super chunky. I mean, it's nothing like the sort of classic red Christmas amaryllis. It's much classier, more refined. But the sort of contrast between Papilio and Mystica, both with the same kind of colouring, but one, as you say, with a sort of crazy twist and turn of the petal. I thought that as the sort of Papilio as the bride and Mystica as the sort of bridesmaid was just the most wonderful, wonderful combination. So I'm definitely going to be doing those again. We'll come on to planting in a minute. And then you mentioned you had another, Tom?
So I quite like green as a colour, full stop. And any plant that does have a green flower or very prominent bright green petals is a real winner for me. So another variety that I love to grow is Green Magic. And I think this one is really quite special. And it looks lovely with Mystica. Quite big flower, quite bold, but lovely to grow. I love it. And it fits in a corner very well. New. I've got an orange lampshade that's quite speckled and marbled, and I love putting it against that. The green and the orange work so well together. One of my favourites.
And Green Goddess is good too, which is a sort of eau de Nil green, I guess. And I mean, I love that. And I love that, again, if you were to do a trio, Mystica, Papilio and Green Goddess or Green Magic or whatever. Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. So my final one, I think, that I would really miss if I didn't have is a variety called Nymph. Now, when I first saw this, I just wasn't sure about it. I'd seen it actually first as a cut flower in the Netherlands. And then we bought some bulbs and I started trialing them. And I was a bit wary of it because the bulbs are massive and the flowers are massive and they're double. And I just wasn't sure. I just thought, I'm not sure. I think I like the sort of crazy amaryllis rather than the doubles. But I was won over by it because, like a lot of double flowers, it seems to bloom for almost twice as long. So individual flower heads last definitely 2 weeks, if not 2.5 weeks, before they begin to sort of frazzle around the edges. But also what I found is the bulb just kept pumping out more and more and more flowers. So we had a bowl of this actually in our sort of guest bedroom here, and I just sort of left it there, watering it every so often, not too often. And it honestly, I'm not exaggerating when I say it flowered for 3 months. So each individual flower is very long lasting, but also they pump out a succession of bulbs. And I don't know if it's just Nymph or it's the doubles in general, but they just give such good value. And should we just quickly, Tom, just give tips on how to grow them?
Well, I think for me, amaryllis, I think the key is to soak the bulb. So when you get them, to soak in lukewarm water just for a couple of hours, really get it to hydrate, basically.
But you would never submerge the apex of the bulb, would you? You'd always keep that dry, wouldn't you?
Yes. So the bulb shape, if you, exclude the tip, but just to rehydrate it, because they can come, when you receive them, they can look so dry, and very often the roots look so shriveled, but it's nothing to panic about. It's just how they are. Then a good gritty compost, lots of drainage. And then I tend to plant them with about 20% of the bulb sticking out of the top as a rough guide. I mean, a little leeway either way. And then really keep them at room temperature. These don't need to be in the dark to bring them onto flower. You can just place them where you want them to be. I quite like them on a windowsill, and I quite like these in the bedroom. They create some real drama and impact. So, and then just keep them moist. I think probably a good soak rather than lots of little bits of water is the best way, and then let them dry out. And just that process. I think probably avoid placing them near the radiator.
Yeah.
So if you've got a radiator beneath your windowsill, just be wary of that.
Yeah.
But nice and bright.
And again, wary of don't water into the tip, the apex of the bulb, because that is where rot can set in, because they're from very hot. I mean, they're from South Africa actually, and actually naturally flower at Easter. But we're talking about forcing, and if you want to force your amaryllis to flower way before Easter, which is their natural flowering time, then you want to really get planting them. Oh, what would you say, mid-October, Tom, if not a little earlier? Yeah.
Even a little bit earlier if you can, but. Yes, I always think end of September, beginning of October, to try and get them for Christmas at least.
Yeah. And one other thing, don't chuck them once they've flowered once. Just allow them to die back until May or June. and then cut the leaf off. It will still be growing probably, but just cut it off, leaving a little bit of leaf above the apex of the bulb, and then dry them out. So properly give them a dormant season. And just think, if they're in the sort of on a gritty hillside in South Africa, just allow them to go into complete dormancy with no water at all, and then start the process again in late September, October, if you want them for Christmas again. But it is quite a good idea. If you forced one for Christmas one year, it's quite a good idea to perhaps not do that same bulb every year. So maybe give it a rest for a year or two and force another one, and then just have the one that you had forced at Easter time, which is when they will naturally flower. So just plant that more like November or even December time is what I'd recommend.
Yes, super. Yeah, me too.
And then for middle size, Tom, so those are the whoppers. For middle size, what would you go for forcing?
Well, I think we can't have this conversation without talking about paperwhites. I mean, they're just so classic, aren't they? And I mean, I grow them pure. Well, visually, they're quite beautiful, but it has to be the scent for me.
Yeah.
And I know some people are not so keen, but I love the scent of narcissi, and these paperwhites are just wonderful. And I do really associate them with Christmas, although obviously they can flower after Christmas and be later, which is just as good. But I love having a pot full of these, a couple for Christmas time that fill the air with, it's synonymous with Christmas time for me. I love that scent. So a variety that I will always choose is Ziva, just because it's very, very reliable, quite easy to grow. I do 2 or 3 pots, several different sizes. And I love having these in the bathroom, believe it or not, because on the windowsill, they're just perfect. It's nice and cool, and they tend to remain quite short, and they just emit this wonderful fragrance. So Ziva is winner for me.
So my winner in the narcissus range, I'm just going to go for one actually, and it would definitely be Polar Hunter. So this naturally flowers here outside in a pot the last week of February, or perhaps just after Valentine's Day. And so this year I'm going to experiment with planting it earlier and actually bringing it and sort of forcing it just like paperwhites. And you don't need cold and dark for paperwhites. And so I'm sort of slightly assuming I don't need both for Polar Hunter, but I'm going to do a trial. So some I am actually going to put in the dark and the cool, and some I'm just going to leave in the light and the cool. But I'm going to start planting those mid-October and go for a planting every week, because I'm really hoping that's going to be our new go-to for early in the new year for narcissus, because Polar Hunter has the most exquisite scent. It's absolutely extraordinary. It's somewhere between kind of stephanotis and orange blossom. And I had some cut stems of it by my bed, and it has the most amazing vase life, but also it has the most amazing pot life, and it just goes on for ages. And I'm going to be here all through the winter. And so I'm really hoping in January and February, Polar Hunter is going to be my friend. And I think forcing it just by planting it a little bit early and having it somewhere to grow on, not outside in the garden, but under cover in a cold frame or a polytunnel, or with us, the greenhouse, we'll just bring it into flower 3 to 4 weeks early. That's what I'm hoping. So I can't guarantee that, but I can guarantee that Polar Hunter is the most exquisitely beautiful looking and perfumed narcissus that I've come across in the last 5 or 10 years.
Oh, God, I so agree with that. Oh, well, I hope that trial works, because if it does, I shall be copying you.
Yeah, good.
Because it's one of my new favourites. I think, the fragrance from it is just wonderful. To have in the bedroom, I agree, in a vase.
Just amazing.
Just beautiful.
Yeah, or pot, yeah. And so I think we just need to quickly perhaps mention hyacinths, which, I mean, the classic Christmas thing is a bowl of white hyacinths, isn't it? But I'm this year going to go for China pink. Do you know, this is quite a new colour for me, because I used to find this colour a bit too girly, but I've so come round to it. And it's because lots of my male friends love it so much, so it's not just girly. But it's the softest sort of inside of a shell pink. It's just the most wonderful, gentle colour. And it has incredible scent. And I just think has standout. The white and the blue I love, but to be honest, you could buy those sort of at the greengrocer already forced at the garden centre. Whereas China pink, you tend not to be able to. So that's the one that I'm going to be planting. Just a few bowls to have through building up to Christmas and then on into the new year. And you, Tom,
Well, for hyacinths,
will you do a hyacinth?
I would. So I'm a bit traditional with hyacinths. I love the blue.
Yeah.
And blue works well in my house because the decor is, I would say the walls are quite sort of neutral, sort of a putty kind of colour, and the doors are a pale green. And the blue may sound a little bit weird, but it just goes so well with it. And so I have a nice bowl of hyacinths, and I love being able to then put little twigs in them so they grow through the twigs. So it's Delft blue for me. I really just quite like that colour because it's not dark blue. It's somewhere in the middle. And I find the stems tend to be quite straight.
Yes, right.
And just lovely. So Delft blue for me.
And cram them into a bowl, almost touching, with drainage holes or loads of charcoal in the bottom of the pot so it keeps the compost sweet.
Yeah. It's fresh. Yeah.
Great. And then finally, perhaps, what about diddly widdly squats? So tiny little, really delicate ones for, as you say, a bathroom shelf or a window ledge or putting by the bed.
Well, I'm going to plump for muscari. I mean, there are a few, but muscari for me are just such winners. They're so easy to force. I think there's nothing complicated about them. So again, like the hyacinths, obviously these are much smaller bulbs, but pack them in so they're almost touching.
Yeah.
And so you get absolute fullness, huge bowl, and then they'll flower. They have a lovely fragrance. They're hugely prolific, and they work in a big bowl or a small one. You can have lots of little ones. I'm a great fan of muscari for forcing and also outside. So muscari would always be one that I would pick. And I think variety-wise, I love Blue Magic.
Yeah.
And the new one, there's a white one as well. Those magics are literally magical.
Yeah.
They're so prolific.
They're so
reliable. I should be planting both of those.
And Tom, for forcing, would you be using, like your Tom's parents have a greenhouse, or where would you be forcing them? How would you do the process of just trying to bring them into flower a bit earlier?
Well, I start literally, I think these benefit from being in a cool, sort of darker place until they've got root. So I tend to just literally put them in my garage and
perfect.
Right at the back of the garage in the dark. And I almost forget about them, almost.
Yeah.
And I check them. And once I can see there's root, then I will bring them out and bring them into the house, into a light, sort of warmish place, and then allow them to grow. Keep them just moist, not too wet, as otherwise they become a little bit too lanky and leggy. And then just let them flower. Quite easy to do.
Yeah. And just to reiterate that on the watering, particularly with hyacinths and amaryllis, you really don't want to overwater. You'll kill with kindness. And what I found, we did a trial here of hyacinths for forcing, and with some, as soon as they began to show colour in their flower spike, we stopped any watering at all. So no water, basically from 2-3 weeks before flowering and all the way through flowering. And that feels quite brutal. But again, when you see them growing in the wild and how arid their situation is, and that really, if they got water, they would get a drenching and then nothing for another couple of weeks. Because what we find is you can get a bit of botrytis sort of rotting off, almost like mold in the apex of the flower spike. And if you don't water, you don't get that. So if anything, be brutally unkind with the watering and mean with the watering rather than the other way around, and you're likely to have more success. So that would be my kind of final parting tip, I'd say.
Yeah, that's really important. And of course, we must remember, once you're done with them in the house, just put them outside.
Great.
And if you've got space, plant them out in the green, as it were, so you can have them in the garden. And then you'll be able to cut little stems from those the following year.
Yeah.
So it's a winner all round, really.
Yeah. Don't waste them. Plant them. Absolutely. Thank you, Tom. That was really great. And I look forward to seeing you for our next episode on our narcissus trip.
Cheerio for now.
Thanks very much for listening to Grow, Cook, Eat, Arrange, the podcast of me, Sarah Raven, talking to Tom Stimpson and talking about forcing bulbs for the house. Next week, Tom's going to join me again, actually, because he is a real expert in perennial pot combinations and things, shrubs, trees and perennials that are really good and successful in a pot and will put up with that container growing. So I hope you'll join me and Tom next week.
You can find more information, photos and advice sheets on all the plants and recipes we talk about on this podcast by heading to the show notes or at sarahraven.com/podcast.